We'll continue working on our shopping list app. Yesterday, we got the app populating with sections, and we left off at the end of the lesson with a challenge to go ahead and add a new view controller such that the user could add in a new item. Because the items we see here are items that were provided via a test data function. But basically, at the end, we said, hey, go ahead and complete this challenge to create an add item view controller via storyboard with 2 text fields and a picker view. And the picker view has the data from the categories. So the user is able to select one of the categories and the main view controller would get back that item that was added, and then that item gets added to the snapshot. So that was the challenge here. I will just go over what I implemented now, and then we'll continue with deletion of an item. So I'll just go ahead and run the app on this screen here. So this is the app. This is where we were yesterday, exactly where we were. So if I was to go ahead and click on the add button, it presents a UI. Tiffany's UI is spectacular. Mine is just very vanilla. It presents a UI here. I'm able to put in a name of a product, Shami butter. I'm able to put a price in, $17. I'm able to select a category. I'll just say triathlon. And when I click on this add button here, it's going to dismiss this view controller. And through delegation, my main view controller will get the item and add it to the triathlon section. So if I click on the add button and I go down to triathlon, I have my chamois butter right here. So let's just go through the code. So what we did in the to-do, the first item was to create an add item view controller. Here we created an add item view controller. We defined the protocol called add item view controller delegate. It has one single function in it, which is add item view controller with 2 arguments. With convention on delegates, you have the actual type. In that case, the type of class here would be the add item view controller, and the actual object you want to capture is the item. Going down, we have the delegate.
Alex, I've got a quick question.
Yep.
My protocol, I'm only taking in the item, and it works.
That's okay. It works because I don't use this. But again, I just stick with Apple's convention where they always have the actual item of that delegate thing you're listening to, like a table view, a picker view, whatever it is. So if in case you do want the actual instance, you have access to it.
Okay, gotcha.
Very good. I mean, you could have a protocol method with no arguments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So here we have our delegate method. It's a week, again, week here because you want to break any strong reference cycles. And you have your delegate. It's optional because it could probably be nil. That's something. But the minute it's not nil, you know there's somebody listening for changes. And if I go down to my did add item to shopping list, which is an action, if I open up my storyboard, and I go to my add item.
Question, sorry. Do you make your selected category, do you make it the first item in there so that
I'll review that.
Nobody toggles, like if the actual picker view is not touched? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if, like, for example, good question. So if I come to my app and I do not select anything, it selects the first by default.
Okay. Like that's like if it's for the running category and you don't necessarily have to move the picker view to choose it, it still has it.
Exactly. Very good. So moving on here, we have our one function here, which is tied to my button. So when I click on that button, it triggers this function. This function, I go through a series of checks, right? To make sure that the name text field has a value. Make sure it doesn't, make sure it's not optional. Make sure it has a value, meaning it's not empty. Also for the price, same thing, make sure it's not empty. And for the price itself, I go ahead, I cast it to a double because I want to work with I'm working with a double here. Make sure it has, I want to make sure it is a double because the user could enter, if the user enters like a string, that's not valid. right? So this is not gonna work, right? I'll see missing fields here in my console. Sorry. I'll see missing fields in my console because this particular action is not valid. This is not a double. So I'm protecting it by by casting it to a double here. So if this is nil, again, this is an optional cast. If it returns nil, this whole thing doesn't happen and it goes to the else statement here, missing fields, or better, it could be an alert controller. Great, so if everything passes, then I go ahead, I create an item with the item initializer, takes an item name, takes a price, which is a double. That's why I did the double part here. And lastly, I set my delegate and I pass it the item and I dismiss this particular view controller here. Any questions about the add item before I move on to the main view controller?
To guard the price, if you change the keyboard to just numbers, do you need to guard the price?
You never want to make assumptions. Because if the user copy-paste something into your text field, right? You never want to take assumptions with users. Always protect as much as you can.
Okay.
Yep, very good. Good question. So any questions about the add item view controller? Because we're gonna head out of this one. Okay, so going back to the item feed, which I refactored already here, go ahead and refactor your, because it's just before, yesterday we left it at view controller, but just refactor it to item feed view controller or item feed controller, like Tiffany did earlier. And we'll continue describing what's happening here. So if you were to go to the very bottom, which is where we have our extension, we have our extension on the add item view controller delegate. And again, there's only one required method here, protocol method, which is called did add new item. It has the item, which is what we're interested in. And according to Kelby, he doesn't have this argument, which is fine. But if you were to say, hey, I want to get something else from the add item view controller, then in this instance, you don't have it here. Does that make sense, Kelby?
Yep.
All right, cool. But for the purposes of just one item, that's fine because we have the item now. And then we went ahead, we got our snapshot from the data source instance. And now we have our snapshot. The reason why we're doing this, by the way, this line of code, is because we cannot directly manipulate a snapshot. We have to get its mutable property in order to actually mutate it. So here we have a snapshot, we add the item, which is an array. It's always an array. You could add multiple items here, right? But in our case, we have just one item we add in, and we add in it to the section, which is the actual item.category, which is very convenient because every item knows about its category and the sections are categories. This is why it's very useful to start right away with an enum type. That way your category or whatever section you have is part of your item properties itself. And lastly, you go ahead and you apply the snapshot, and then the table view just renders. There's no reload, right? There's no reload here. There's no need for reload data. No need for property observers. Snapshot. Apply snapshot is all we need. Source. Oh, very good. At this point, is everybody up to speed with where we are?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Can I see how you populated the picker view on the last view controller?
Oh, on the add item, you mean?
Yeah.
So add item, you talking about this particular function here?
No, the picker view.
Oh, the picker view. Oh, the picker view. Sorry. Let's go back to the picker view. So the picker view, we have our data source, we have our delegate, and as Tiffany asked earlier, I'm setting my category with a default, the first item here. And this is the extension for the picker view. So the picker view has one component, one column. So one column. Somebody's gonna type. It has one column. How many rows does it have? Well, we ask the categories in cases. How many cases do they have? Next step for the delegate has, you ask the delegate for the title. So here we ask the delegate for the title for each row. And for each row, again, we go to our category enum to say, hey, give me all your cases. And for each case, go ahead and subscript in the array with the row. This row here represents each row. And each row has a category, but a case, but what we want is the raw value. We want the string. So here we just get the string representation of the case. And for did select, whenever the user scrolls my picker view, did select gets called, and there I set my category or my selected category.
Okay. Thank
Very
you.
good. Did you get it to work?
I'm finishing it now. Can you scroll up a little bit? Just one.
Up right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, I got it.
Very good. Okay, cool. Awesome. So our objective now will be for deletion. Let's get out of here. Anybody has any other questions? Because at this point, we all should now have the ability to add and have our stuff populated. Our objective for today is going to be to delete an item. Okay. Our objective again is to delete an item. And I'll do reordering next week because reordering is a bit complicated. I want to show us how to do it, but not every day you'll be writing that code from scratch, because once you have the code, again, most of the data source methods we'll be having here, you barely want to probably change it with whatever table view you're working on. So any table view you're working on, most likely, did I actually do this already? You guys are like, what is happening here? Sorry. This does not help all that code in there. Where were we? We didn't even have this either. What is going on with this guy? He just keeps coding. And the only thing we had was the title, correct, everybody? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all we had yesterday. So any code, well, the code you write in this particular class, most likely, if you're doing any table view stuff, there's not much you have to change. So when I show us how to do reordering, I'll go through the code, but know that, I'm saying right now, know that you won't be changing that code that much with any sort of reordering you have to do on a table view. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool, very good. So I'll go through it on Monday, but just know that you'll barely be changing the code that we write. Once we write it, it's working. You could just take that data source with you, any table view stuff you're doing, with minimal changes to the data source methods themselves. So that's going to be a good sort of like class you could just use wherever you go. Very good. So now let's go back to our item feed. We have some stuff to do here. Our app right now, the edit button, oof, this guy just keeps coding.
You went ahead.
This is not here. The person that took the snapshot, I saw you. All right, so that should not work. Very good. All right, cool. So that we have the configure navbar, correct? All the code in here. We set up the title yesterday. We set up the left bar button yesterday. We set up the right bar button yesterday, correct?
Yes.
All right, cool. So now what we want to do is when we come to that UI, we want to be able to edit. We want to be able to change the state of the table view. When I click on the edit button, I want the state of the table view to change, to go to is editing mode, where we have our delete button and then the actual rows just shift to the right. So we want to change the editing state. So this is the first thing we'll do. We'll work on toggling the state of the table view. Because right now we cannot edit, we cannot delete, we cannot do anything. So let's go ahead and do so. So before anything, let's actually go to the data source. Go to your data source. Go to your data source and implement can edit. Just type in can edit row. So this is a delegate method. It says, can I edit a row at some index path? And it's up to you to say true or false. So here we'll return true, right? So we're telling it, hey, yes, you can go ahead and edit, okay? Next thing we want to probably do here is type in commit, because we're working on deleting. So type in commit and press enter.
And Alex, sorry.
Yes.
The edit actions in can edit row, when you set it to true, is that like a built-in like set of functions that you can edit?
Which one? This particular function?
Yes, because just by setting it to true,
yeah,
how much does that?
Yeah, that's a built-in function. That's a delegate. That's a data source function.
How much does it actually give you to edit? Like,
so if I say edit, every row is now editable. Every row in this particular table view is now editable. I could delete it. I could, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep. But if it's false, then you cannot do anything to the row.
For sure.
So you could actually, if there's some logic where you only could, where you cannot delete like a particular row, you could write the logic in that particular protocol method.
Like in case the cell category dot whatever dot item or
yep.
Right?
Yep. Like if I'm like,
okay.
I do not want to delete the first row in my running section.
Right. So some sort of if function, like if it equals something. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Like if section equals running and index path dot row is 0, then return false.
Okay.
Very
right.
good.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. So here we have our can edit. We return true here, and all you have to do for the commit style, we'll write some logic in here. But right now we'll be able to actually swipe, not necessarily be able to delete. But those two functions we have right now are boilerplate functions for being able to delete a row. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. So now if we actually run our code again, we should be able to at least swipe a row, right? Everybody? You cannot delete yet because the logic is not there, but can we all swipe?
Yeah.
All right, very good. All right, so let us continue on to our item feed controller, and we're working on the toggle. So when they use it,
Alex, can you just quickly go back to
the data source? I'm sorry?
No, I just wanted to make sure something. Okay, you can continue. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't print out. It doesn't autofill these functions.
You in the data source class, right?
Yeah.
You have your table view title for header that worked yesterday, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. When you type in can edit here, you saying it doesn't come up?
No.
Maybe close Xcode and reopen it, because if you were able to get this function working yesterday and you're in a data source which inherits from UI table view diffable data source, which itself conforms to UI table view data source, you should be able to have autocomplete work for you here. So I'll close Xcode and reopen it and see if that works and let us know.
Yeah, I've just closed the app. Okay, I'll try.
Yeah, let us know. Keep us updated. Okay, so now we're in the toggle edit state in the item feed view controller. Everybody, we are in the item feed view controller. We are working with the toggle edit state now. So the toggle edit state, what do we want to do? Well, when I click on edit, I want to change the table views edit state. So what does that look like? Table view, type in table view, set editing. So table view, set editing. Here, I'll put true for now, and I'll put true for now. But what we want to do, we want to toggle that actual state. So if we run the code right now, by just having true here, let's see what happens. If I click edit, it should be able to edit. But if I click edit again, nothing happens because I need to toggle it. are we able to put our table view in an edit state?
Yeah.
All right, very good. So next step is, how do we toggle this? Well, we could toggle this by saying table view dot is editing, and toggle it by just simply putting an exclamation mark right before table view is editing. So what happens is, if I come in here and the state is true, the next time I come in here and I say not true, what does it become?
False.
False. Thank you. And if I come back in here and it's false, what does it become?
True.
True. That's all I'm looking for. So here, this is what that particular code does. So now it toggles the state of the table view. If I run it again, and I toggle, it goes into editing state. If I click on edit again, it goes back to not editing state.
Does that toggle function work with any Boolean?
Yeah, pretty much, because every time you call the function, it's just going to change whatever the Boolean value is. Okay. You just negate it.
I'm trying to make sense of it. Why does it do that? So let's say.
So let's go through it again. The first time I come in, it's true, correct?
It's not true.
The
no,
second
it's not.
time, yep.
The first time it would not be true, because right here it's table view that is editing. The first time you get onto the view controller, it wouldn't be true. It would be false.
Right.
So when you click it, as long as it's not true, it will put it into the edit state. But that means that once it's in the edit state, when it comes back here again and it's going to say set editing, if it's not true, no?
So the first time it comes in here, you said it's false, correct?
Right.
All right, so if it's false, let's just put some value here. Let's put a variable, is editing. Let's go through this. Is editing is false, correct, the first time?
Yes.
All right, so first time is editing is false. When I come back in here, what am I saying? I'm saying
is editing is true.
Is editing, let me just put this here like that. Is editing. So if editing is false, then that becomes true, correct? If I say not false is what?
True.
True. Next time I come in here, same variable, same variable, same logic. This time it's true. Not true is what?
False. Oh, okay. So
Right.
no, it's making sense. It's just the whole idea of the toggle always like gets me, because that's what I was looking at. That never changes, but what it's returning changes.
Yep.
Got you.
Very powerful, but yes, it could throw you off. It's like, what? That's it?
That never changes. What it's returning is changed. If it, okay.
Yep. The value of that equation changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's like putting on and off the light. Well, toggling, but yeah, you come in, it's true. You're like, hey, turn on the light. It's on. Turn it off. You come back. It's like you just keep changing until, well, it will just keep doing that. There's no turning back here. Cool.
Thank you.
Very good. Any questions about that? Anybody wants me to go over it again? We good? All right. So now we're able to change the state of our table view this way. What's the other thing that makes sense to change here?
I'm noticing an issue where, like, when you click the minus sign, shouldn't it not like bring up the delete on the right side and just delete it? I don't know if that's.
When we're actually able to delete, this is all gonna work for now. So delete is fine, but it would be nice to change the title.
Never mind, you said it.
You were about to say, yeah, it would be nice to change the title of the navigation item. Mm-hmm. Right? So like when I say is editing, when I change that here, it changes to done. And when I click done, it goes back to edit. So simply, that's what we're gonna do. So how we'll achieve that? Well, on the navigation item, what side is this item? Is it left or right?
Left.
Left. So we say navigation item dot left, bar button item. Every bar button item has a title. So we want to change the title. Let me get some more space here. So we want to change the title. The way we're going to change the title is we'll see what the state of the table view is. So table view dot is editing. If it is editing, we'll give it some string. If it's not,
Like a cancel, because if it's editing, then like just reverse, right?
yeah.
But why are you making the title equal to is editing?
This is a ternary operator. It evaluates what that value is. Is it true or false? If it's true, it's going to do this logic. If it's false, it's going to do
gotcha.
this logic. And all that logic happens to get assigned to that title here.
Okay.
So if it is editing, we'll change this to, what is happening?
Is a ternary operator like a if statement kind of in this instance?
Yep. Yeah. So when we introduced back in unit 1, when we introduced what's happening here, title, UI Bourbon item. Oh, well, you know you need to put an question mark. Why don't you put just navigation item left Bourbon item dot title. There you go. So back when we introduced like control statements, we introduced ternary operator. So that's a use case for it here, where you could just say if else, but you could still just do a ternary operator for that. Does that make sense, Kristen?
No, for sure, yeah. I've seen this style of code like on LeetCode when looking up solutions. So I'm a bit familiar with ternary operators. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the one thing that gets us off sometimes is like what happened, like how do we read the code? The first way, how we read the code, the first thing we read is this particular operation. Like what's the evaluation of that? Is it true or false? If it's true, whatever that is, it has to evaluate to a Boolean value. If it's true, it goes ahead and it executes what's after the question mark. If it's false, it goes ahead and it executes what's after the colon.
Okay.
And whatever that is gets assigned to the left
title.
side, the left side of the operator, of the operation.
Okay. Yeah, I got that.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
No, that's good. Bring that up. Anybody else wants me to go over this?
I have a question. Obviously we've done these before, but is it best to use this over an if statement?
It depends. It depends. It depends on the situation. You don't want to overcomplicate it either. If you could just do a simple if-else statement, they're both evaluate to the same runtime. There's nothing different there.
Okay, so it's the same runtime. Okay.
Yep. There's no reason to make it complicated if you're trying to do some simple if-else statement.
Okay, cool.
Because the same thing could be written very easily by saying if table view that is editing, assign it to something else, this. Now
So is the benefit of this just less lines of code?
Yep, 100%. Because look at this. Now I'm doing this and I'm doing that.
Every time I'm on LeetCode comparing like my answer to somebody else's who uses ternary operator, it's like 8 lines less.
So that's the difference. How many lines is that?
5.
And then you have 1 here.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Very good. All right. But the question is, does it work? Let's see what we have going on here. So if I edit, it changes my title to done. If I click done, I'm done. Everybody's working the same?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. All right, where's the lesson now? Let's go to the last part of this for the day. So now we're working on deleting a given item. We've set up both functions here that's required. We return, I need to update this, return to in the body. What are you returning here, sir? And then step 2, we wanna go through the actual snapshot. So the first thing we wanna do is get the current snapshot. Next, we'll get the item. Oh my God, don't type 4 a.m. in the morning. The next thing
you should sleep.
Sleep. The second thing we should do is get the what? Get the item using the identifier. And the third thing is delete the item from the snapshot and apply the snapshot. So 4 steps. forget about the typos there, whoever that typed this 4 a.m. in the morning.
You forgot step 5. Sleep.
I know, right? All right, so let's go ahead and execute those, and then we should be good. So let's navigate to our data source. In our data source, where are we writing the code? Where's a good place to write that logic? I'm in the data source, and I'm writing the logic in one of those 2 methods here. The logic to actually do the deleting on the snapshot.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought it froze. I didn't hear anything.
I could hear you, go ahead.
No, I didn't hear what happened.
Oh, the
It froze
question.
like
The
that.
question was, where are we writing the logic for deleting? Which method?
The commit.
The commit, the commit. Very good. Thank you, Cassandra. So in the commit, go ahead and type in if editing style equal to delete. We'll go ahead and write our function. The first step we said, let's go ahead and get the snapshot. So snapshot self.snapshot. Again, we have to get this mutable because this is not mutable. I cannot just mutate this particular snapshot here. I have to get a mutable value. Okay. Step 2, what does it say? Get the item. So let's go ahead and get the item using the item identifier. So step 1, get the current snapshot. Step 2, get the item using the item identifier. Here it's optional, so we'll just say item like this, item identifier. Item identifier is a type on the data source there. So item identifier for index path. We have the index path, so now we're able to get the item. So item identifier, we just pass in the index path. This index path is coming from here, right? Every row knows about its index path. So now we have the item that we want to delete. So let's continue on. So we'll use the snapshot here. I guess we'll just say step 3, delete the item from the snapshot. Okay. And step 3 is simply saying snapshot.delete. Again, delete items takes an array. Very easy, very good API. Takes an array of stuff. So you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, a million. So here we just pass in one item we want to delete. So you could imagine like you could have some sort of like selection happening, and you say everything that's selected, just go ahead and delete them. So you just pass in an array of things. What's the last thing we need to do here? Step 4. Apply. Step 4, apply snapshot. Or apply the changes. Apply the data source, which return and here we'll simply, yes?
Apple.
Apple? Thank you. And lastly, we'll just say apply. And here we'll say pass in the snapshot instance, and we could pass in some animation here to say true. And that's it. So those are the steps. We have 4 steps to delete. 1, get the snapshot. 2, get the item we are trying to delete. And 3, just simply delete the item using the snapshot. And 4, just apply the snapshot. Okay. And let's go ahead and test this.
So every table view has an item identifier, meaning like
Every, not table view, but the data source itself. The item identifier here is on the data source.
How is it on the data source? We have, can you go down? We have, oh, wait, no. Oh,
like we're not saying data source here. Like remember, if we have to go back to our item, we'd have to probably say like data source dot apply. But we already.
No, because right now, all right. So this is okay. I'm gonna remember that this is the diffable.
Diffable data sources, yeah.
Has the item identifier, which is for the okay.
Yep. Because here we're working with a diffable data source class.
Yeah, sorry. That's what threw me off. I have to remember.
No, that's okay. Ask the questions. I need those questions asked. So we applied, and then let's go ahead and run it and see if everything works according to plan. So it looks like I bought cracking the coding interview, so I could take that off my list. That works. It looks like I have an Apple Watch, so the Fitbit, I don't need that. So that works. Can I put it in editing state and do the same thing? Looks like I got this STEM kit for my son. That works. Cool. Is it able to work for everybody as well?
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Very good. So we'll wrap it up here. And then the last thing we'll do with diffable data sources is on Monday, we'll talk about reordering. So just to give you a quick glance at this, the reordering is a bit complicated. And again, the code we'll be writing for this, that's not code you're going to be writing every day, right? You probably barely be changing that ever when you're working with reordering things in the table view. So the reordering has like 4 scenarios. One, if the person is trying to grab an item here and do nothing with it, we do nothing. The next step is if they're trying to say, take some item here and move it down here, then we do scenario 2, where it's after destination. So we have 2 index paths. We have a source index path and we have a destination index path. So we have to figure out at every point, what action are we doing? So if I'm taking something from 0 and I'm trying to put it between 1 and 2, then I'm adding it after some destination. Scenario 3, if I am removing some items at 0 from section 1, I am trying to insert it between 0 and 1 in section 0, then I'm adding it before some destination, right? And the last one, if I'm trying to take some item from section 0 and I'm trying to insert it into section 2, which doesn't have anything, then I'm doing scenario 4, which is adding it to a new index path. Everybody? So hopefully this little diagram.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the difference between the before and the after destination?
The difference is the way we place it on the snapshot. Right? Because the snapshot itself needs to know where that item is going. Is the source going before the destination, or is the source going after the destination?
Actually, because isn't there a way to combine both? I mean, I haven't seen the code of it, but
combine both.
Yeah, because isn't it like you're because if you have a source and a destination, does it really matter if
it does? Because you replace it
after.
It does because you need to give the destination a new index.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? You cannot just like do one without doing the other. Both of them needs to be taken care of, unless you're doing scenario 1 or you're doing scenario 4. You see what I'm saying? Because scenario 1 doesn't have a destination, you're not doing anything. Scenario 4 doesn't have a destination, like a new thing you have to change. You're just changing the source itself. Yep.
Makes sense.
The diagram is just an illustration to see where we go into, but the thing is a little bit complicated, so just keep that in mind there. Was there a question?
Yes, about deletion. So now I see that after you reload the app, so the snapshot is not saving.
No, we didn't do persistence in that.
So like snapshot doesn't persist?
No, it's the same. Like persistence is always something you have to add if you want to save to your phone.
Oh no.
You want to get everything, huh?
Yeah.
He said, oh no.
Wow. I see that. But Luba said for extra credit, well, not extra credit, for practice, Luba said you could go ahead and add persistence, everybody.
For the job, we'll do that.
For the job. All right. Yeah, there's no persistence for free apparently here. Sorry. Yeah. But persistence, if you want to add it, you could definitely just add it. You could use our persistence library or anything that you want. But yeah, it doesn't persist right now. Sorry. But it does persist only in the app launch, in the app while you're working with the app itself. So if I did something here and I go and I come back, it's still not there. But yes, if I stop the app and I reload it, it's gonna come back because there's no persistence. Cool? All right. Is there anything we wanna go over before I end here?
I got a quick question. I was just I'm wondering, is there any method on the table view that, like, when you click on the minus button, that's something other than the delete? Like, is there a built-in logic for, like, say if you want to click the minus and you just want that to make it delete?
You'd have to do customization there.
I mean, that's my,
maybe
my other question was changing the image of the minus.
Yeah, also, I think it's part of the API now, because before you'd have to do some more customization there, but you could definitely change the image. You could do different things there. You could make the cell itself customizable.
So there is like a .set editing button image?
The actual image on the delete here?
Yeah.
I think you should be able to do it with the API.
Minus.
The minus, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the minus. I'll have to look into that for you. Like if you want to change the actual image here from a minus to something else, I'll probably take a look at the API and see if that's possible there.
All right, I'll check it out.
Because you could check it out for sure. Cool, very good. All right, so come Monday, the goal is just to move things around, and then that's going to be a wrap for Diffable data sources. Feel free to take a look at the code here, because I kind of documented everything that needs to happen. Well, I documented it here. Hopefully there's no typos. But those are the steps we need to do in order to get reordering done. Okay, so that's the code we'll be writing on Monday. And again, you could very easily copy paste this, but I just want to go over it once with us so that we can visualize like what's going on here. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
All right, cool, awesome. So we will end here.